Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. Hope everybody's well. Hope you had a fantastic weekend, and I hope your week has started off well. So, who have we got in the chat tonight? Let's have a little look and see who we've got chatting with us tonight. We've got a nice little bunch in, nice and early, which is always good to see. We're going to be chatting about, well, first of all, we are going to be having a look at everyone's entries for the November painting challenge. So we've got all those to show off tonight as well. So we'll be taking a look over some of the community painting entries, and we will also be talking about painting. We'll be talking about upping your painting game in 2023. And the reason I thought I would use this as a bit of a subject is I've spent a lot of time this year painting armies, like painting, batch painting, painting fast, sort of getting stuff done. And I've not really taken the time to like try and maybe up my game a little bit, improve. I've got faster. I've learned a lot this year on just kind of sort of painting stuff and like sort of getting stuff done quickly. But I've not really concentrated, I don't think, on trying to improve. So I thought I'd kind of give you 5 tips to up your painting game this year, and then you can add yours as well, and we can always do a 5 further tips or something like that. Anyway, let's see who we've got in the chat tonight. RG was in nice and early. Nice to see you in, buddy. How you doing? We have Radio Free Armageddon. Hello to you as well. Hellstorm Wargaming even popped his head in. Hello, Mikey. How you doing, mate? Colin Mack. Hello to you as well. Type 40 TARDIS. We've got Paul Taylor. He's asking how everyone is and what they're working on. Are they working on anything good? Christian Reeves, hello, mate. How are you doing? Yoakum, he said he's back home again after his adventures in Nottingham. The Robin Hood himself, coming all the way over from Sweden to Nottingham for our firefight slow grow celebration weekend, or celebration day, shall I say. It was really nice to meet you face to face, mate. Meeting you in person. We've obviously chatted on there, sort of on Zoom and stuff like that in the past, but it was awesome to meet you face to face, mate. Super Pumpkin Man says, afternoon everybody. Mighty Dice is in, good evening to you. VJ, good morning sir, over there in, yeah, it is sunny Australia. I'm trying to think, I know it's your summer, but I think about it there. Spiderlord, good evening to you as well. Camo, good morning. Wayne Haywood says, hope everyone's well. We've got Major Tom in as well, good evening Ed, how are you? Big Dave, good evening. Blizzaz, all those to you as well, mate. Clyde Dashing, good evening. He says he's here in body, maybe not in mind. In body's good enough for us tonight, mate. That's good enough. We've got ER910 says greetings as well. Edsy in there as well. Lots of times I wish I still lived in Nottingham, if I'm honest. I've not spent a huge amount of time in Nottingham. The times I've been there have generally been kind of flying visits, or I've just sort of gone to Mantic, or I've gone to like sort of Riverhorse or something like that. I've not really spent any time in and around Nottingham city centre itself, so maybe one day I'll try and make a bit more of a trip of it. But I've never been to all the local spots everybody keeps saying, like, oh, have you been to the ye old Jerusalem bar, and have you been here, and have you been... I've never even been to Nottingham city centre, I don't think. VJ saying, apologies, no painting challenge entry from him, too busy with the move. I completely understand, mate, and never feel bad about not entering them. They're there to try and sort of motivate people, and you know, if it motivates 1 or 2 people, then it's 1 or 2 more than maybe wouldn't have got motivated. So that's always good. John Estel, good evening to you, mate. How are you doing? Said he's looking forward to seeing everyone's work. Spiderlord said he loves living in Nottingham as well. Hello to you, mate. RG says, good evening. He's building some cheap eBay MDF kits. He might get some paint, some more minis later. It's never a bad thing, is it, mate? Tony Howell, good evening to you as well, mate. How are you doing? And Somberlin says, good evening. Hope everybody is well. Very, very nice. And good evening to Phil Wilkinson as well, just sneaking in there on the edge. So, what's everybody been up to? As I mentioned there, I was at in Nottingham and at Mantic HQ on Saturday for our the long-winded title of BlackJack Legacy Firefight Slow Grow challenge. So 3 months I've been running this. There were 200 people in the Facebook group and a few others as well dotted around who weren't members of the Facebook group, all taking part, all trying to build and paint 1,000 points of Firefight by Mantic Games. in that 3-month period, and quite a few people managed to complete that challenge, which was awesome to see. And even better, 20 of those folks bought tickets to come to Mantic HQ and come and play 3 games of Firefight with those 1,000 points of Painted Army. So it was really awesome that it was well supported. There was a couple of people couldn't make it on the day, but it was still very well supported, and it was a nice relief for me to turn up in the morning and see people there and see the room full of people with smiles and laughing and playing their games. And I really enjoyed organising it. It's not something I've ever done before. I've kind of like part or co-organised events in the past when we used to do the Top Table Legacy Weekender. But that was less about organising kind of a gaming event and more about almost kind of hiring a hall and letting people turn up kind of thing. This took a bit more organising. It took more organising than I expected, but conversely, also I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected as well. So I think I will definitely be organising more in the future. It's something I think I could kind of grow to love organising events. I think. Let's have a little look here as well. VJ saying, yeah, the rain seems to have gone. Should be a stellar summer. Perfect for living 10 minutes from the beach. That's what you want when the sun's out, mate, isn't it? That's for sure. Big Dave saying, the Pit and the Pendulum was a great bar in Nottingham. Not sure if it's still there. And Spiderlord saying, yeah, it's still there for now. Yeah, like I said, I don't think I've ever... I'm trying to think back. Have I ever been in Nottingham City Centre? I don't think I have. I don't think I've ever had reason to be there because, like, I've been to, obviously, like, Warhammer World. I've been to Warlord Games. I've been to Mantic. I've been to Riverhorse. And they're all kind of on the outskirts, kind of Lenton and Bulwell way. So I've never really had to kind of stay in the city centre. So, yeah, I need to put that right at some point. Let's have a little look. Tony saying, dismal December here. Not a great month, so apologies if I'm a little quiet. Well, it's always nice to see you, mate. No matter whether you're feeling up or down, buddy, it's always good that you're still making sure that you're kind of you're not tying yourself away on your own, mate. Like, even if it's just coming and hanging out and being part of the crowd, mate. I'd much rather you were here in spirit, even if you're not feeling up to it, buddy. Mark was saying hello to everybody as well. Nice to see you, mate. Long time no speak. Is it Jiquan saying good evening from Northern Norway? How are you doing? I'm doing very well, thanks for asking. I hope you're well too. Players in Exile saying he had part of his stag do at Rock City in Nottingham nearly 22 years ago now. Yeah, no, like I say, I think I've heard of Rock City, but I'm assuming it's kind of like a rock bar or something, is it? Austin Thornhill says hello from California. Now there's a place I think I'd rather be than here in rainy, wet, cold Newcastle at the minute. I'm sure California's fantastic weather at the moment. Hello, Austin. And VG saying, yeah, he stayed right in the town centre when he visited. A lovely spot. Yeah, I left my hotel booking until a bit of the last minute because I wasn't sure whether I was going to go on the Friday or go on the Saturday morning. So rather than book something and cancel it, I ended up leaving it late. So I just ended up booking somewhere quite close to Mantic itself, just on the outskirts of Bulwell, which was fine kind of just for one night. I didn't get there till late anyway, so I kind of just turned up. I think I just I grabbed a beer and a bite to eat, and then I went back to my room, and I had loads more prep to do as well to get ready for the event the next day. So I didn't really have much time in Nottingham anyway. Drew saying, hey, hope you're well, man. Just got back into miniature painting after a year of not doing it. End up buying a cheap airbrush you did a review on. Airbrushing is hard. Airbrushing, hello, by the way, Drew. Airbrushing can be quite hard. It's not the easiest of things, but it's one of those things you do have to kind of practice. You have to get it wrong a few times before you get it right. And sometimes you learn more by getting it wrong rather than getting it right first time and then not really realizing what you did right kind of thing. It's something I would 100% recommend just kind of sticking at. And the one piece of advice, or the two pieces of advice I would always give when it comes to airbrushing is make sure you clean your airbrush, because most problems are caused from a bit of dried up paint stuck in the nozzle or the on the needle itself or something like that. So cleaning your airbrush is very important. And the other one is always thin your paints more than you think you need to. You're far better off like sort of really thinning them down, spraying them through and finding that they're a little bit too wet, if you like, or a bit too runny, and then adding a little bit more paint to it. Because if you do it the other way around and you start with the paint too thick in the airbrush, that's when you start to clog it up. That's when it sort of dries inside the tip, and that's when it dries in the needle, and that's when you start to get all of the issues. So always start kind of much thinner than you expect and thicken it up as you're kind of learning. That would be the advice I would give. VJ saying, You get in a good bender night with the crew. Yeah, we could do with a good boozy night, couldn't we? Bobby Clark, good evening, mate. How are you doing? He said, I'm preparing some Malifaux models for a week of painting. I'm looking forward to seeing them, mate. I always like seeing you do some like, and I don't mean this negatively when I say non-GW stuff, but your GW stuff is fantastic. But I always like to see what you do with models that you don't see painted quite so often, kind of thing. So I like seeing when you've got your Malifaux stuff on the go. Andy saying, how's everyone doing? Nice to see you, Andy. We've got Tavinda. He says, hope you're doing. Oh, that just jumped. There, let me get that back again. Hope you're doing well this week. I'm having a hard time balancing hobby time with the little one at home. Yeah, I kind of had that not too long ago. The little one was off school for a week, off half term, and it's quite hard, even just balancing kind of, like even balancing work. Like I work at home kind of thing, and this is what I do every day, and it's quite hard when the little one's around. It's not like I can kind of say, right, I'm recording something, so you just sit there quietly in a different room out of the way kind of thing. That's not how looking after children works. So yeah, I can appreciate how it's hard, mate. Ed saying he's got Vijay says, did any of your other reprobates manage to get you out for a crew night after games day? I had to drive straight home, mate. So after the games day, we finished 5 o'clock. We were kind of wrapped up by about 5:30, 5:45. I drove Yoakum back to his hotel back in Nottingham, and then I got back on the road, mate. And I got home for about 9:20 that night. So it's about a 3.5 hour drive for me to get back to the northeast. So yeah, I didn't really want to be kind of hanging about for a drink, mate. I needed to get back home. Ed saying he's had some airbrushing disasters to be sure, but the results when I get it right, which is most of the time now, make them worth it. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, like I say, you do have to kind of make mistakes, and sometimes making them mistakes is actually what teaches you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. Because it's almost like I said before, if you get it right first time, it's kind of pure luck and it's hard to replicate again. At least if you get something wrong and learn from it, you kind of you do learn. Tony's saying, third piece of advice is don't ask Tony. My advice involves sealed boxes, chains, padlocks, and airbrushes. Tony's not a friend of airbrushing, Tony. And Drew says, thanks for that advice. I should probably look into getting thinner and cleaner. Had to clean mine with Windex. Yeah, Windex I think is essentially just is very, very similar stuff to thinners, to be fair, mate, or to the airbrush cleaner. But yeah, I would recommend getting some thinners. But I tend to wash mine with water, and then I'll probably run a little bit of cleaner through right at the end once it's kind of flushed out. But as long as you don't leave it to kind of like dry and kind of go hard inside, you can generally get away with just a good kind of flush with water most of the time. Spider-Lord saying, get some cleaning brushes too. They aren't expensive and well worked it. I had some, and to be honest, the problem I got was all the little bristles off them basically kind of like sort of fell off into the airbrush, and they ended up getting stuck inside the airbrush. And it took me a long time to realise that one of the little sort of black bristles from the cleaning brush was stuck inside the nozzle, and it wouldn't come out. So yeah, that was one of the things. Yeah, Spylord saying eventually you get to a stage where cleaning the airbrush becomes second nature and you just need to do a deep clean every now and again. Yeah, but it's one of those catch-22 things, because I think people tend to start off with the cheaper airbrushes, the cheap, like mass-produced Chinese airbrushes, and when they're not they're not finding it easy. If you look online for advice, everybody will go, "Oh, don't buy the cheap ones. They're rubbish. You want to invest in a better one." And when you start looking at the better ones, they're like £100 each. And what I've found is, I think the cheap Chinese ones are actually pretty all right. They're pretty good for kind of base coat and prime and that kind of stuff. They're not so great for kind of detail work, but that's generally because they've got bigger nozzles and needle sizes. But I tend to find that they're fine. It's more a case of they're sometimes a little bit more difficult to clean, which might sometimes give you a bit of a problem. But I generally find that for basically getting used to it, I think they're good enough. And I've got like two like cheap airbrushes, and I've got one better quality one. And I use the better quality one if I'm trying to kind of sort of like do any more slightly more detailed work, maybe a little bit of kind of like sort of coloured zenithals and things, or maybe like sort of painting in kind of like shoulder pads and stuff like that, or like maybe smaller, tighter areas. But generally, I just use the kind of the cheap workhorse ones and just use them. John says, in airbrushing, you need to kiss a few frogs before you know what you're doing and find your prince. I'm still single. It definitely is a bit like that. And I think it's another one of those things. It's one of those things where you can watch all the videos in the world, but it can be quite difficult. And when you're doing something wrong and you don't know what you're doing wrong, it becomes really frustrating. And that's when people give up. When it's like, I've done everything everybody said. Like, it must be so, like, it's, you know, like there must be something wrong with the airbrush or whatever it is. And like I say, 9 times out of 10, it's a cleaning issue. And even when you strip it right down and you think you've cleaned it, 9 times out of 10, it's like it's a piece of hardened paint stuck inside the really fine nozzle or something like that that is blocking the needle from coming back. And so you're like, so when you're pulling the needle back, the air basically blows back up into the cup and it starts bubbling and stuff like that. There's all sorts of things like that. Super Pumpkin Man says, I use the same one that you reviewed and I can even do some detail work. Yeah, absolutely, mate. You certainly can if you take your time. You just kind of pull back gently on it. You don't just like, you don't use the trigger as an on-off switch, and you just very, very fine just pull back on the trigger. You can definitely do some finer work with it. VG said he strips his back and drops it in the ultrasonic cleaner after each use. Never had a single blockage. I do mine through the ultrasonic cleaner now and again, but generally what I'll do after each use is, as soon as I've kind of, so here's a bit of a kind of like of what I do, and there's a bit of method in the madness what I'll do. So what I'll do is I'll obviously pour the paint either like back into the bottle or whatever, or if there's not much in it, I'll just kind of run it through some water, and I just keep filling the cup and tipping it out like sort of into a sink. What I don't want to do is blow that paint through the airbrush, and what I'll do is I'll keep kind of I'll do that. I'll fill it a few times, and then I'll block off the nozzle and sort of pull back on the trigger so that you block the airflow and it blows the air back up the needle and into the cup, and you'll see all the bubbles coming up. And what that does is it blows out of the nozzle any little bits of trapped kind of flakes of paint and stuff like that. And then again, you kind of ditch that. So you're constantly trying to clean the cup and clean through the nozzle back over, rather than trying to spray through the nozzle, where all you're doing is you're just forcing any bits of crap that's in it into the really, really tight nozzle part. So you want to do that as much as you can. And then I tend to take the needle out, give the needle a wipe down, maybe just run some water through it. And then I tend to then run water through the nozzle. I've got like a little kind of cleaning cup where you put the airbrush inside it and you basically can blow inside of there, and then I'll generally run some cleaning fluid through it just to kind of clean it off. And I always just leave a little bit of cleaning fluid in the bottom just to keep the airbrush wet when I'm not using it, so it's not just so that any paint inside there that I haven't managed to clean out doesn't just kind of harden and stuff. So anyway, that's just the way I do it anyway. Let's have a look. John saying, the problem I had with my cheap one was the O-rings perished with cleaning. Yeah, the O-rings can perish quite quick with cleaning fluids and stuff like that, mate. That's definitely one thing I've noticed. My expensive one, to be fair, I had a problem where I was cleaning the nozzle and the nozzle actually split on the end. It's so fine on the end, it actually kind of split, so I had to buy like a new nozzle for it. So even the more expensive ones are not kind of fail-proof. Lee Russ, good evening, mate. How are you doing? Nice to see you, fella. Tony says, I'm the tooth fairy of airbrushes. He puts the cleaner in the basket. Christian says, his workhorse airbrush is a Badger Patriot 105. I rarely use the Sotar 2020 or the Spar Max 4. I've got kind of cheap, I think it's like an A165 or something compressor. If you look on Amazon, it's pretty much the standard compressor that you get with every kind of cheap kit. And it's got a compressor and it's got a tank, and it's a workhorse. It's never let me down. It's absolutely fine. It gives a constant kind of tank of pressure. It's variable and stuff like that. Not too noisy. It's worked great since the day I got it. And I upgraded to an the Cult of Paint Harder and Steinbeck Evolution airbrush. That's the what kind I've got. And one advantage I would say of that airbrush over like the cheaper ones is it strips down really well for cleaning. Like the cup screws off, the end nozzle like unscrews, and the actual nozzle part just pulls out. The needle's like nice quality. It is a better quality airbrush, but by the same stretch, it was like over 10 times the price of like one of the cheap airbrushes. So it's, for me, I think I had my airbrush for about a year before I spent any money on a better airbrush. And for 90% of the jobs I do, the better one's not really kind of sort of done anything different to me really, for me really. Paul says, are ultrasonics worth getting for just airbrushing? I just got a cheap ultrasonic one from Amazon, I think it was, and I also use it for cleaning metal miniatures. So I've mentioned many times about the problems I have trying to stick infinity miniatures together. So I got an ultrasonic cleaner to try and like really strip them down. I've used the ultrasonic cleaner for stripping minis where I've kind of been trying to take paint off them, either ones I've bought second hand or old ones that I've wanted to strip and start again. And I've used it for cleaning my airbrush as well. And to be fair, my wife's put a engagement ring and stuff like that into there, and it absolutely brings the diamond up with a lovely sparkle. So she's happy with it as well. Jaquan says, I bought a knight from Warhammer 40k and planned on painting flames on the top of the armor of it. Have an airbrush, but I'm still new with it. Anyone got any tips for painting those flames? I would suggest, mate, see if you can get a template for them. That's one way to paint really good flames with an airbrush. If you can get like a template, you know, like an acetate with the flames cut out or something like that, or mask them off with masking tape, and do it with the airbrush. That's the way to do it. If you're trying to do it freehand, I would just practice on some paper before you even start trying to get stuck into that, mate. That's the way to do it. By all means, give it a go. I mean, what's the worst that happened? It doesn't work out and you just kind of paint over the top of it. I would suggest kind of doing it when you're at a stage that you don't mind like sort of painting over the top, as opposed to when everything's absolutely perfectly finished and then you're trying to do it at the end. That would be my advice. Vijay says, I use mine for a few other things as well with 3D printing. Yeah, I can imagine actually for 3D printing stuff it's pretty good. Drew says, so what's your main army, my favourite army to paint? It depends on the game, mate, to be fair. I paint lots of different armies and play lots of different games. So I wouldn't say I've particularly got a favourite army or a favourite army to paint. When I'm painting armies, I quite like to have a relatively simple, repeatable kind of paint scheme. Nothing too detailed, nothing that's going to take me forever. But then I play a lot of skirmish games as well where I like painting individual minis. So I can't really answer your question, unfortunately, because I don't really have a favourite army. Super Punker Man says, I rinse out the paint cup until it looks clean and then refill with 85% or higher rubbing alcohol and spray until done. But I always rinse all the rubber parts only in water. Yeah. And John saying, I do like my Ultra from Harder and Steinbach. It's still much better than I am. Looking forward to breaking out on Friday and doing a bit of detail. Yeah, I must admit, I've gotten out of sort of the habit of using mine, because when I got colour forged spray cans, especially when I was painting armies, what I found was the colour forged spray cans they went on so nice, like nice and matte and really like a nice coverage. They didn't kind of go on too thick. That I found actually just by getting the main base coats down with a spray can was so much faster than individually painting each kind of model with the airbrush to get the base colours down. So yeah, I just kind of got out of the hang of using it, but yeah. Speed Demon saying, yeah, Angel Heraldo showed how he cleans his airbrush. Surprisingly quick and easy how he does it. I think that the biggest thing I would say with airbrushes is if you've got a dedicated area where you can use your airbrush. Like I'm really fortunate, I've got space here where I've got like my little kind of like extraction cabinet and stuff like that, and I've got space around with all my bits of airbrush paints and cleaners and stuff. If you've got like a nice area where you can use it, it's really easy to have all the cleaning stuff to hand. You can even just have like a bucket of water and you can like literally dunk it in and spray it through and stuff like that. There's some really quick ways to clean them, but I think the trick is having like a bit of a dedicated area to do it. If it's one of those things where you're constantly getting everything out and putting everything away, I think this is the point when people get a little bit peeved off with airbrushes, is that actually the setup and the breakdown and the clean down time sort of negates the extra effort. Speed Demon says he just pulls out the needle slightly and dumps the entire front in a cup of water and blasts air through it. Yeah, I mean, you can do that, but I'm just always concerned if anything's gotten into that cup, any little bits of dried paint or any little bits of flakes have kind of fell off the top of the nozzle or anything like that. you're just pushing them through the cup. For me, it's easier to dump them out and not push them through the nozzle. Maybe he mixes his paints differently or something like that, or maybe he's using paints so much that they're just constantly like they're never really getting them little bits of dry flakes on them or anything like that. Spiderlord's saying, yeah, Nottingham Castle's been closed for about 2 weeks. Yeah, people having a little bit of chat about Harder and Steinbeck stuff. Good stuff. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll start off with some of the if I get people's emails up as well, so I can actually read their read their descriptions, because the painting challenge in November was under the subject of the gift. The reason it was the gift was it was my birthday last weekend, last Friday, like a week gone Friday. Yeah, it was my birthday, so we decided it was going to be the subject was going to be the gift, and we had some really nice kind of sort of reasons why people have done some of these. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We've got 14 submissions this month, so we normally get quite a few more, I'll be honest, but we got 14 anyway. I'm all right with 14. So we're going to start with Adam Wasnitzer. So let me find his email here, and we'll have a look, and we'll see what. There we go. We'll go to here. We'll see what he's got. So these are the models that he was painting for the gift. And he said, hi Andy, for this month I've done Ref Boris from Heresy Miniatures. As you can see, this player has effed up and is about to receive the gift of pain and a red card, which I quite like. Really, really nice. I love this model. I've never seen these Heresy Miniature ones before, but I must admit they are really nice. If you're a Blood Bowl player, I think this is something definitely worth picking up. Love the kind of the little gem that you've painted there as well. Looks cool. Black stripes as well, and never easy to do there. Black and white stripes. The kind of like it's just a thing to do. It's a thing that is difficult to do, but you've done a cracking job of it, mate. Love the red card there as well, which looks like it's going to be forced down his throat there, to be fair. But yeah, really nice job on it, mate. Lovely basing as well. That really kind of sets it off. And a nice little kind of leopard print loincloth there as well. So yeah, awesome work, mate. Thank you very much, Adam, for entering in there with the gift of pain and the red card there. I like that, mate. Next up, we have Mr. Ben Mitchell. And Ben, if I can find his email now. Ben here has said, for this month's challenge, I painted up some villain characters from the Stuffed Fables board game. It's a slow project of mine that I'm doing in the background as a gift to play with my 2 girls once they get a bit older. Only about another 4 or 5 years to go. That just gives you a bit of time to paint them, mate. Nothing wrong with them starting ahead. And he said he also painted up the main characters back at the start of the year for the Fantasy Painting Challenge, and I've included them in the last picture to add a bit of flavour. He said 11 challenges down and 1 to go. Yeah, last challenge of the year. I'll have to announce that tonight as well. And he's just saying thank you for the content and the hobby community. Nice one, mate. Thank you very much. So yes, I don't know what the characters are called, but yeah, these are from Stuffed Fables, and there'll be a gift to play a game with his daughters, which is absolutely awesome. Lovely colour choice here, mate. Love the shading as well inside the folds of the fabric. Looks really nice. Next up here, we've got, I like these, some kind of like sort of clockwork mechanical dog type things, which are really cool. Love the metallics there as well. A little bit of kind of staining and stuff on them. Just makes them look a little bit oily and ready to go. I'm assuming the coloured bases are to help with the game as well. And then he's got there. I love the way Stuffed Fables plays on these ring-bound boards as well. So you've got the kind of like the rules at one side and the boards to play on the other page. Looks really cool. And then obviously you've got the other minis. I remember seeing these ones actually that he painted as well earlier on in the year. These little kind of sort of stuffed toy things. Awesome work, mate. Love that. Thank you very much for entering. Thank you for taking part in every challenge so far as well. Let's see if we can do a full year of challenges, eh? So next up we have Mr. Colin Beale. If I can find his email. There it is. And Colin, he says, another great challenge. New job has limited his painting time, so only 3 this month, but all gifts. 1 Magnetar Marvel Dreadball fan, that's what he's called. Love this weird tentacle alien. I've painted it for a friend who I'm sure will appreciate it. I'm sure he will, buddy. It's a really nice model. I love these Dreadball kind of, I don't know if they're like sponsors or, I can't remember what they are, but they're awesome, mate. The fan models. And I keep meaning to paint that one's the two little are they Zos, I think they are, inside of like a bit like two of them, one on top of the other inside a big trench coat. I still haven't gotten round to picking that one up yet. But yeah, lovely work, mate. Lovely colour choice. The orange and pinky purple there really does pop. Love that. The next one he's got is a gold dragon. He says he's painted for his dad's Christmas present. Thanks to Tony for suggestions to improve the gold as well. Always nice to see the community coming together and helping each other out and kind of giving advice and sort of being able to support each other. So thank you very much, Tony, for that as well. And thank you, Colin, as well for painting that one. And nice little tufts as well, set it off. And the last one here says, finally a paddle boarder. I painted it as a commemoration of a friend passing their paddleboard instructor certificate. And thanks as always for the challenge. Awesome mini, mate. I love that. I can almost imagine that he's kind of creeping up to get the dragon, to be fair. Lovely work on the eyes as well, mate. Like the little bit of kind of weathering as well on the paddle. And the base looks cool as well. So thank you very much, buddy. Really appreciate that. So next up we have Mr. Dan Kennedy. And if I can find his email, which I've just seen somewhere, there it is. So Mr. Kennedy there says, he painted this one as a gift for his gaming group's Secret Santa. Probably shouldn't be sharing it, but I'm confident the person is intended for won't see it before receiving it. Just waiting on a little display plinth coming to stick it on. So this is awesome, mate. Let's flip it around so we can see the front, because I love this. It's a lovely model, and I really love what you've done with it as well. The winter basin really does set it off. As always, mate, you're a hell of a painter, and it's always good seeing the work you do. But I think there's some of the colour choices really do set it off. Those kind of like silvery greys with the wintry thing, just it makes it feel cold. And sometimes reds with the cold stuff can like get out of balance, but I don't think it does here. I think the greens really tie it in nicely together as well. Awesome, mate. Love those. I'm not sure if that's freehand or if that's like part of the design as well, but either way it's really nicely done. Same with the hair as well. Some really nice skin tones on there too, mate. Love that. Absolutely brilliant piece of work, mate, and I'm sure the person who is your Secret Santa gift receiver will be suitably impressed with that, mate. So thanks for sharing. Next up we got Mr. James Carlin. Let me find his email here as well. And he said, happy birthday for Friday. Thank you very much, James. And he says, as a gift to you, we have brought you a dinosaur leg. I like that, mate. Thank you very much. So I'm not familiar with what the models are, but I must admit, I do like them. But I do like this. Just a dinosaur stump leg there. Just being carried over. But lovely models, lovely colour choices as well. The yellows with the kind of brown shells, and the weapons here really do pop as well. Lovely work, mate. Yeah, I'm not familiar with what these are, mate, to be fair. You'll have to, if you're in the chat or if anybody knows, you'll have to let me know what the models are from. But yeah, I do like the colour choice. Basin really does kind of like sort of hang with them as well. Yeah, I like those colours, especially on that weapon as well there. Very, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, is it, I'm thinking of like the like lizard men type colours and stuff like that. It really does, it feels like that to me. Really nice, mate. Good bit of work there. So, next up we have Joachim, the man himself. And Joachim was the first person to... Actually, no. Do you know what it is, Joachim? I think I've put in your... This is an old one, mate. Somehow it's ended up in a different folder. I was just thinking you were the first one to put it in, but you would have been back in August. So I apologise, mate. You didn't enter that one for this month. Next up, we got John Estel. That's who we've got. And John, his email, he said, if I can find it here... It says, these are a gift I painted for my wife, who's a huge DC fan. It's the first time I've painted something which has a real reference. And I know what you mean by that, like sort of like a comic book or like film reference or something like that. So we've got, did he write on the email? I think he did write on the original email, but, oh, there it is. We've got The Flash, we've got Harrison Wells and Vibe. So it's nice to paint something different. These look awesome, mate. Lovely work on the gold kind of lightning flashes as well, which are never easy to do. And yeah, Harrison Wells and Vibe. Nice, mate. I'm assuming these are the DC models that come from Night Miniatures, aren't they? Or Night Models. because they're very reminiscent of the Batman miniatures as well. Look really cool. Nice work, mate. Love the basin as well. Very, very nicely done, buddy. Thank you very much for entering, John. Next up, how many we got left there? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've done 6. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got 7 left. We'll do Christians, and then we'll have a little break, I think, and we'll come back to it. So Christian is saying this entry represents the gift of music, which I love, mate. Absolutely love it. Now I think, yeah, Christian's saying here is 3D printed troll from Artisan Guild, from the Patreon welcome box. Really nice, mate. And I think, did I remember you painted these for, was it a D&D group or something like that? But I really like the model, mate. Lovely. Your painting, I always like your painting, mate. Yeah, fantastic work. Love the little kind of sort of, the little cuts in here as well with the purple underneath there, really setting it off. Love the colour choice between the blues, the purples and the creams there. Nice choice as well for the hair colour and that purple strap around the guitar. It looks suitably mean. Love that that shot there as well, mate. It really kind of shows off the eyes and stuff as well, and the work on the bones. Very, very nice. Lovely highlighting as well around on the skin tones. Love it. What does it say? Let's see. Get. I can't remember. I'm trying to read what it says in the background. Something roll. Oh, I can't. Maybe it's maybe to see a different picture, but I love these, mate. Nice there. They really hang nicely together, mate. I really like them. Was that last one on the base there? Was it? Did I see? Oh no, that wasn't it. I thought I was going to say where I was going to say that the base disappear at the bottom there. Love those. Love it, mate. There was speakers in the background as well. Really, really nice. Yes, love it, mate. Really nice work. I'm just kind of gone quiet while I'm just admiring them. It's the first time I've really kind of absorbed them all in. But yeah, really nice work, mate. Love the colour choices. Love the models as well. Very, very nice. Did the whole kind of like the stage and everything come from the 3D thing as well, mate? Did it? Love it, mate. Oh, it's Gethro Tull. That's what it says. Gethro Tull. I thought it said something Get and Roll or something like that. Jethro Tull. Nice, mate. I love it. Jethro Troll. Brilliant work, mate. Love that, Christian. Thank you very much, mate. We'll come back to those and do the other ones in just a second. But let's see what folks are having a little chat about here. Where we are. Yeah, Lee Russ is saying, yeah, nail on the head there. Setup and cleaning time means my airbrush only comes out for the bigger jobs. Yeah, I think that's kind of generally the thing. Yeah, Drew saying, happy late birthday, mate. Looking good at 24. Yeah. 24 and a bit. Tony saying, I have a Harder and Steinbeck Infinity along with others locked away in the oublet. Spylo says, I had an idea but just couldn't get round to it this time round. I think it's just that time of year, but as well, people have got stuff going on, and that's coming up at Christmas and things. There's plenty happening at the moment, so I don't mind when there's a few less. Like I say, if it helps motivate people, it kind of it comes on to what we're talking about later on as well, about trying to like up your painting game next year. Sometimes it's just about giving somebody something different to paint. Tony said they're never going to see use again. They will, mate. They will. Eventually, you'll get a burst of enthusiasm, mate, and you'll want to try and use it again at some point. So make sure you just store them away. Don't give them away. Don't throw them away. Just store them away, and the day will come, mate, at some point. Yeah, people just saying nice, really clean work. Speed Demon saying they almost look like they belong in Wild West Exodus. Yeah, love the mechanical beasts. Very nice. The mechanical dogs. And Ozzy saying, yeah, cool Dreadball fan. Christian sharing the link as well for the Patreon. If you would like to support me on the Patreon, This is, as I've said many times, this is my full-time job. This is what I do now, and support from the community means that I'm not relying upon doing massive big numbers on YouTube, which means I can do these kind of community nights where we're talking about stuff that's maybe not for everybody, but it is for the community. And as long as that community wants to see this kind of stuff and they don't mind supporting a little bit, then this kind of stuff can continue. Otherwise, I've got to go down the sponsored route, and I've got to go chasing the Warhammer videos with the big numbers if I need to make money a different way. At the minute, I don't have to do that, and it's because of the love and support of the community that I have here. So thank you very much to each and every one of you. Type 40 TARDIS has seen he loves the detail. Christian saying, yeah, reminds him of World of Warcraft. Yeah, definitely, mate. Nice totals. Clavac saying, evening all. Good evening to you, mate. VG saying, got to drop a little guy at school. Back in a bit. See you later, mate. Super Punky Man saying, still need to watch The Flash. The Flash, yeah, I must admit, I can't remember why. Me and my wife used to watch it a lot. And I think what happened why I stopped watching The Flash was there was a point in the story where the stories merged with Arrow as well. And I think I felt like I should go back and start watching Arrow to get to that point where it all crossed over. And then it went off to, what was the different ones? There was I forget. There was loads of like spin-off shows and stuff as well. And I think I got to a point where I was like, I can't keep up now. It was like trying to read the comic books when they have spin-offs and stuff. At least with the Marvel films, there was like a little bit of pacing between them. I could keep up with those ones. Yeah, John saying some great work. Yeah, they are from Night Games. And Christian saying, yeah, it's Jethro Tull. Troll. That was it. The stage is handcrafted from foam. It looks fantastic, mate. Really, really good. Mark was saying, great entries. Yeah, forgot to submit mine as usual. Oh, you can have an extra one next month, mate. You can put double in. Mark was saying, yeah, happy birthday, Andy. Thank you very much. I've had quite busy with life and missed a lot of the live streams. As long as you're doing well, mate, that's all that matters. As long as you're still managing to get a little bit of hobby in, as long as you're happy, that's all that matters. John says, I think others like me were finishing off the slow grow. Yeah, I think there was a lot of that as well, mate. I think as the slow grow was coming to an end, there was a little bit of kind of frantic, feverish painting, I think it was, mate. He says, I only got an entry in with the extra week. Oh, yeah, of course, because I put it back a week, didn't I? Drew says, yeah, after a year in storage, a lot of my paints have dried out. Saved a lot, but damn Citadel paint pots. I've never really had an issue with mine, I'll be honest. As you can see behind me, I've plenty of Citadel pots, and I've never really had much issue with them drying out. I do tend to look after the pots and kind of make sure the tops are clean and stuff like that, and periodically kind of unclip the lid and kind of give it a wash. But yeah, I guess if you're getting paint into the recesses in the rims and stuff, it will cause some issues. Super Pokemon says, yeah, not everyone has got time to go insane and complete something like my October submission. You're not wrong there, mate. You're not wrong there. So, I'll tell you what we will do. I will we'll come across to here, and we'll record this as well for posterity, because I will put this one up as a clips video. Last week's video seemed to die in its arse, if I'm honest. I don't know what happened. Nobody really seemed to watch it. So I didn't bother with putting a clips video up, because I just thought it just didn't seem a particularly popular topic. So I thought I'll record this bit. We'll clip it out for tomorrow's video, and we'll go from there. But tonight I want to talk about upping your paint game in 2023. And you might be wondering, well, I'm quite happy with how my painting's going. I don't need to up my game. If you're happy with where your painting is, do not worry about it. This really comes from my own personal experiences and some of my own hobby goals for next year. So what I found through 2022, I've probably painted more models this year than I've painted in a long time, and I did go through a bit of a patch over the last few months where I haven't really painted very much. A bit of a kind of hobby slump, but when I have been painting this year, I've painted quite a few armies, and painting armies is a very different experience to just kind of painting sort of individual miniatures and trying to improve your standard. Generally, painting armies is around doing things quick, like speed painting, or kind of finding shortcuts, finding ways to make a model or an army look cohesive and effective with a few spot colours without making it a chore to actually paint it, otherwise you just don't get it done. And so because of that, this year I've spent a lot of time developing kind of ways to get faster, ways to really push the contrast so that models look kind of like they stand out as an army. They really pop on the tabletop, but I'm not too worried about how individual models look. And I guess what that's done is it means I've neglected kind of trying to improve my painting. So I decided next year I want to try and improve my painting. I want to try and push the limits of what I can achieve before my old eyes and my shaky hands get much worse and I can't really improve. So I thought what I'd do is I would share 5 tips tonight that you can choose to use if you so wish and try and improve your painting in 2023. So the first one is paint a single miniature. Now, as you've just heard me say there, I've painted lots of armies, and army painting and batch painting are really not about getting better at kind of brush control. They're not really about kind of trying out new skills. You're very unlikely to be doing kind of sort of blending or kind of any kind of fancy detail work when you're painting armies. But if you're going to paint a single miniature and you're just going to paint it for fun, it doesn't need to be for an army. It doesn't need to be for a painting competition. It doesn't even need to be for a game you're playing. Just get that one miniature that you like the look of, that you're kind of inspired to paint, and just kind of go to town on it. Take your time with it and just really try and push yourself a little bit. Try some different techniques out. Try basing it a little bit differently than you would normally do. But just painting that one single miniature rather than painting a batch or painting like a crew for a skirmish game or something like that just gives you that opportunity to try some new stuff out and really try and kind of up your game a little bit. The second tip I would give you is try and paint outside of your comfort zone. Now, something I'm very much aware of that I do myself is I have certain, I should say, kind of color triads that I use as almost like my crutch when I come to kind of when I paint. There's a nice 3 colors of blue in a nice triad that I very often use, and I've used them like on my dwarves for Kings of War. I've got a nice triad of reds that I use, and I've used them on many different armies over the years. And I enjoy painting red. There's certain colors that I just they become my go-to when I decide to paint something, and because of that, I don't really push the skill level. I tend to just fall back on using that. So what I would suggest, and what I'm going to try and do myself, is to try and paint outside of my comfort zone. If I go back to the last tip about just buying that one model, it's a great way to get something that doesn't need to match other stuff. Like, for example, when I've been painting this year, some of my best paint jobs, I think, this year that I've painted have been my Marvel Crisis Protocol minis. And the reason that I think these have been among my best is because I've only had to paint them once. For example, when I painted the Hulk miniature, I really just kind of relaxed and just kind of almost went a little bit free flow with it. I wasn't trying to perfectly replicate the green skin tones from a comic book or from a movie or anything. He had to be green. It's the Hulk. Let's be fair. But that was as much like sort of direction as I had. I never paint green. I hardly ever use my green paints. And all I did, because I didn't have to replicate it anywhere else, was I just gradually sort of kept up lightening the green up, or I'd bring a different colour green in and mix 2 together and build up some of the highlights over the skin and try and push it a little bit and really try and work with it, trying to kind of highlight around the facial features. The Hulk's got like a big sort of like chunky grimace around his face, and there was some really nice kind of hard edges around the kind of sort of as his mouth was grimacing around the kind of the frame of his face. There's some really nice edges to really try and kind of work on sort of highlighting skin tones and stuff like that. And by trying to kind of push myself by painting outside of my comfort, using colours I wouldn't normally use, sort of painting a scale of miniature that I probably wouldn't normally use, all those things help me kind of push on a little bit and get a little bit better. And since then, I've kind of went back to painting armies and batch painting and speed painting. But I think the best stuff I've painted this year come when I was just painting like that and really kind of pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. So try that this year. Well, try that next year. You could even, within that kind of getting outside of your comfort zone as well, is set yourself a bit of a challenge. Now, it might be something you do with a friend. It might be something you do as part of a community group like ours. Set yourself a challenge, or set your friend a challenge, and get your friend to set you a challenge to paint something. Maybe say, give me 3 colours to use, and I'll use them on this miniature. You can use other stuff as well, but maybe just kind of doing something out of your comfort zone that way. The third piece of advice I would give you, or the third tip, is ask for advice. Now, I'm terrible at this. I kind of like, I don't know why, I don't know whether it's working on my own, kind of like it gets me into this kind of mindset that I do most things on my own these days, and I'm not good at asking for help, and I'm not good at asking for advice. But one thing I want to do this year, or next year I should say, is ask for advice when it comes to my painting. I want to try and take a painting class at some point over the next 12 months and actually sit down with somebody face to face and get them to kind of correct some of my basic mistakes. Because all of my painting I've learned just by trial and error. I could be doing a million things wrong, and I could be kind of making it harder to get better by doing the basics wrong. And I've always said at some point I wanted to try and have a painting lesson or a few painting lessons. So I think that's something I'm going to try and do over the next 12 months. But you don't have to go that far. You could just go to your local club and have a painting night and sit and paint with somebody else. Or if there's somebody online sort of that's in a Facebook group or is in a Patreon group or a Discord group that you really like their painting, see if you can hop on like a Zoom call or something with them, or see if they'll just sort of text you some advice. It needs to be somebody that you kind of trust. You just want constructive criticism and maybe a nudge in the right direction. You don't want somebody to go, well, that's absolutely garbage, I wouldn't do it, like that kind of thing. You want some advice, you want some encouragement. So make sure you ask the right person. But reach out and ask for some help. Reach out and ask for some advice. You can watch as many YouTube videos as you want, but it's very, very difficult to replicate what somebody's doing in a video when it comes to maybe certain techniques. It'd be far easier for somebody to talk you through it while you're doing it, be that face-to-face or over it's like a Zoom call or something, or even just to kind of to be able to show you how to do it. Like even when it comes to basic things, if you're just starting out, somebody sitting with you and showing you how thin your paint needs to be, like, you know, that can be a game changer for a lot of people. The biggest mistake most beginners make is not thinning their paint enough, and actually it's a hard habit to get out of. I painted from the pot for a long time, and what I used to do was I used to obviously shake my little paint pot, open the lid of Citadel paint, and I would kind of like use water from the brush and mix the bit of paint that was in the lip of the lid and almost use that as like a small little kind of palette type thing. And I painted like that for years before I got a wet palette and started kind of thinning things down like that. So ask for advice. You don't always know the things that you're doing wrong until somebody points them out to you. But yeah, just pick the right people to ask, I would suggest. The fourth one, or the fourth tip I'm going to give you, is to accept failures, because you will get things wrong, especially when you're trying to paint outside your comfort zone, when you're trying to maybe try some new skills, you're trying some new techniques. We've been chatting about using an airbrush tonight in our live stream and about how difficult that can be and about getting it wrong and just kind of giving up and just packing it away and never using it again. Accept that failure happens. Like what we do for a hobby, and remember that it's a hobby, we'll come back to that. What we do for a hobby is not perfection, it's art, and we all try to kind of achieve different effects. We can all get the same paint, we can all get the same brush, and we can all get the same miniature, and we'd all kind of choose to paint it in a different way. It's an expression of like kind of what you want to achieve. It's an artistic endeavor. It's not about trying to replicate box art. It's not about perfection. So accept that there will be failures. Accept that you will do things wrong. But also remember that you can always spray over the top of it and start again. You can strip the paint off if you want to. You're not destroying anything by kind of trying this new thing. So everything's recoverable. Everything can be sorted out. Everything can be kind of like sort of painted over and start again from a blank canvas. But as long as you accept that you won't get it right every time, it takes a little bit of pressure off. The amount of people I've spoken to over the years who want to get started in miniature painting, but they don't want to ruin an expensive model, or they don't want to kind of like, there's almost this panic, this analysis paralysis of, well, where do I start? Like, have I even primed it the right color? Am I starting off in the wrong place? Just accept that you'll get things wrong. That's absolutely fine. Like sometimes getting something wrong will teach you more than getting it right. We just talked about this when I was talking about airbrushes earlier on in the chat, and that you will learn more from doing something wrong, because when you change something and put it right and it works, you'll know what you've done to make it work. If you get it right the first time by pure luck, It's going to be very hard to replicate that because you don't really know what you've done. So yeah, the fourth tip there, just accept failures. It's not about perfection. It's a hobby. You're meant to just have fun. You're meant to enjoy it. You're not painting for anybody else. You're painting for yourself. Accept that things will go wrong sometimes. And the last one, the fifth tip I'm going to give tonight, is give yourself time. I think we all want to kind of get things finished. We all end up wanting to rush things, especially me when I've been sort of doing stuff for the channel. If I've been speed painting stuff, if I'm trying to knock out an army because I'm trying to make a video out of it, and like I can't just kind of paint it over months and months because I need to do the video and kind of move on, if you like, or I need to hit it for a certain event or something like that. The time to kind of to push and try new things is not when you're under pressure for a certain time. Like if you're going to an event at the end of the month or something like that, and you want to paint a new hero model, and you think I'm going to try and do my best work on this, that's probably not the time to be trying any fancy techniques or trying to push out your comfort zone. The time to do that is to have a nice little kind of miniature just on the side that you just come back to from time to time, and even if it never gets finished, but it just becomes a miniature full of little techniques that you've been trying out, like I'm going to just try this little basin technique on this miniature, or there's a nice kind of curved surface over this big shoulder pad. I'm going to try and kind of like do some blending on this, or I'm going to try a bit of freehand on this shoulder pad where I've got a nice surface, or I've got a tank that I've always wanted to paint and I'm going to try some freehand on the doors or something, or I'm going to try some weathering on this because there's like a nice opportunity to kind of get some chipping medium in here, or try some weathering powders. Just like don't put yourself under pressure. Don't put yourself under a time limit. Don't give yourself a deadline when you're just exploring and you're experimenting and you're trying new stuff. So those were the 5 kind of tips I would give you about trying to raise your game. I'm not telling you how to kind of paint better. I'm not telling you how to kind of which fancy techniques to use. We all paint to a different standard. We all are trying to achieve different things. And if you want to improve your painting a little bit, I think using those 5 tips are a great place to start. Let me know what tips you would advise. Is there anything you think I've missed? Is there anything that you disagree with? I'd love to know what you think. So, folks, what do you think? That is the question. Let's have a look in the chat tonight and see what anybody agrees or disagrees with. Let's have a look here if I can go back. Speed Demon says he's horrible at taking care of his pots. I even had some contrast paints dry out. Yeah, I must admit I do kind of look after the pots, to be fair. That's maybe why I've not really had any issues. He said, with the advent of Vallejo Express colours, I do plan on giving them a go. Big fan of Vallejo paints in general. To be honest, mate, I'm not against kind of things like Army Painter Speed paints or Vallejo Express paints or anything like that. The problem is paints are expensive, and I have, as you can see, I have a big collection of paints, and I don't feel the need to spend more money to buy more paints that do a very similar job to the paints I already have. Now, if I use all my contrast paints, would I replace them with contrast? Would I replace them with Army Painter? Would I replace them with Vallejo? I don't know. I guess I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. If I could try them out somewhere, if I tried them and they were absolutely night and day, like completely different to contrast paints, then maybe I would pick them up. But the problem is that they're not cheap things to buy. And while I've got something that does the job I need, that's kind of like, for me, it's not really a need. And that's really the reason why I've never really tried the Army Painter ones or the Vallejo ones. Clyde saying, yes, let's up that game. 100%, mate. Super Pokemon says, I guess I'm just lucky that most of my paints keep just fine for years. One thing I used to do with my paints was I always used to store them upside down before I got these kind of racks. And that was just because it automatically creates a seal around the lid because air can't get in because there's liquid there. So I used to always store my paints upside down. RG saying, well done to those who did the slow grow. I realised I just don't like painting armies, so now I just tend to focus on skirmish sets with a small number of minis. Absolutely nothing wrong with that, mate. Like I said in that little chat there, it's your hobby. You should enjoy it. You shouldn't be painting stuff that you don't enjoy. Half the battle sometimes is working out what you do like and what you don't like, and then just kind of going with it. Christian just sharing the link there as well for t-shirts and hoodies from Teespring. By all means, if you want to treat yourself for Christmas, get those Christmas orders in. Clyde says, batch painting saps the soul. I find there's something quite therapeutic about it, mate, actually. That sometimes when I don't have to think about it too much, especially when it's for an army for a game, when actually I want to get it painted and get it on the table. Like once I'm in the zone, I've got a podcast on, or I'm listening to music or an audio book, or there might be like a documentary on that I can kind of like. I quite like watching stroke listening to kind of documentaries on Amazon Prime and on Netflix and stuff, where I can just kind of zone out and absorb them in while I'm just sitting painting. I actually don't mind. I find it quite zen at times, but it's not creative. It's not something that like kind of I'm not trying out any new skills or anything like that. It can become, especially if it's too many models, it can become a little bit like a production line. Evening, George. How are you doing, mate? RG says, my eyes are gone, hand is still steady. I think I probably drink too much coffee, mate, and I'm definitely starting to need the old the old binoculars, I think. Ed saying, if we're talking painting outside comfort zones, I'm painting metal again. I'm painting metal. Is metal not something that you'd normally paint, mate? Is that something a bit different? I guess I just assume that most games have a weapon or something like that, so metal's something that gets painted quite often. Paul saying, I don't know how anyone paints an army. I can't even paint a small squad. I'm definitely a single mini painter. I quite like painting an army, mate, to be fair. There's something about seeing them all completed, like when they're all finished, that I just really enjoy. And as I said before, it doesn't make me get any better, but it like kind of completing something at that scale is its own reward a little bit. Putting man saying, hardly ever use green. Orcs are sad now. I don't really paint orcs, mate. I think the only orcs I've painted were the marauders this year, and to be fair, I think I used just green contrast paint to get the skin done, get them done fast, I think, mate. Clyde says, how can you get a game like Song of Drums and Shackles? However, you can get a game like Song of Drums and Shackles, paint 6 characters with various uniforms, and that's fine. Yeah, absolutely, mate. RG says, one small squad in a colour scheme is okay. Lots of small squads in an army with the same scheme is just a big no. My armies are in boxes in the garage, maybe one day. It's all about kind of horses for courses, mate. If the game you like playing, like if you like playing Kings of War, if you like playing Warhammer 40k, if you like playing Conquest and you're painting big armies, it's just something you're going to have to kind of come to grips with. You either have to pay somebody else to do it, you play unpainted, or you're going to have to do it. If it's something that you really, really hate and you're not prepared or can't afford for somebody else to do it, then that's where kind of skirmish games come in, and why a lot of people play skirmish games, to be fair. It's one of the reasons I used to love playing Malifaux was, again, you don't really paint two models the same. Each one is an individual character. It's one of the reasons I love Marvel Crisis Protocol. Just pick the heroes that you like the look of and just paint those ones, and I never have to paint them twice, kind of thing. Alex Berry, hello Alex, how you doing, mate? Said 100% agree. I really want some face-to-face painting classes. I've only learned via YouTube and trial and error. I think my problem is, mate, I kind of learned to paint before YouTube was and this makes me sound old, and it wasn't really that long ago, but like YouTube wasn't as big as it is now when it comes to kind of like miniature stuff. There certainly wasn't really anybody kind of teaching you how to paint online, and so I kind of learned like nobody showed me. I was sitting at home learning to basically I was trying to buy, in fact I think I bought some of the Games Workshop kind of army painting books and stuff like that, which were fine if you were painting Games Workshop stuff, but if you were painting anything that wasn't Games Workshop, like it wasn't like giving me all the colour recipes to paint an Ultramarine, wasn't really helping me with my War Machine stuff, kind of thing. So I'm sure I make lots of basic errors. I'm sure I probably should be maybe using bigger brushes sometimes, like rather than trying to be too neat. I'm sure I probably don't thin my paints down enough. I'm sure there's probably lots of basic errors that I make. And I would love to sit with somebody who knows what they're doing to just kind of coach me through some of that kind of basic stuff. I'm not great at putting like highlights in the right places. Like I'm not like I'm pretty good at contrast, where I can really push extremes in like a dark blue and a light blue and put it in the right places to make the model pop. So I think my color theory, I think, is okay, but I'm not very good at getting like smooth kind of transitions for putting highlights in the right place. I'm much better at that kind of comic book extreme highlight type thing, as opposed to more natural looking stuff. And I'd like I'd like somebody to point me in the right direction, I think, when it comes to that. Speed Demon Painting says the second biggest mistake starters make is overloading their brushes, causing them to lose control of the paint, either by having too much liquid or painting being on the brush instead of in the brush. Yeah, it's another thing, mate, as well, is that kind of getting too much, even using the brush to if you're using GW paint, for example, or even if you're not, using the brush sometimes to mix the paint, to thin it down, ends up just putting paint into the head of the brush. It gets up in the ferrule, you never get it out, it starts to split the hairs in the brush. Like, brush care is something I don't think beginners really think about, and it's certainly, when I see kind of like beginner painters paying really high prices for expensive brushes and then not looking after them, and like it's kind of it pains me. I've kind of gone the other way over time, and I buy probably cheaper brushes now, but like look after them as if I spent a fortune on them, and they seem to last like just as well as my old Winsor & Newton ones and things I used to do. RG says comparison is the thief of joy. You're absolutely right, mate. We're not painting for anybody else. We're not, unless you're painting for a competition, or unless you're a commission painter. Like, paint to your own standards. Paint to make you happy. Drew says, how do you strip a plastic model? Quite unhappy with my current model. There's a few ways you can do it, mate. There are certain kind of chemicals that you can buy which are designed for stripping minis. You can actually just buy like methylated spirits, which will strip them. You can use Dettol, which will strip them as well. You can use like essentially paint stripper. You've just got to be careful that you don't use anything that's too nasty that will actually melt the plastic. But if you think about the stuff you can buy at a hardware store to clean, you know, if you're painting with emulsion or something, and you get someone like some paint on a wooden floor or something, or you get it on a plastic trim around a window or something, you buy those kind of methylated spirits or kind of clean spirits to clean that paint off, don't you? This works exactly the same way. So think about those kind of stuff. But yeah, there's a few different things you can use. Oh yeah, Christian's saying there methylated spirits works quite well. George says absolutely, failure is not having a go in the first place. Everything else is experience and practice. Exactly, mate. Excuse me, I'll have a drink. One thing I didn't mention there in those kind of 5 tips, and it was an easy one to say, but I guess it's kind of an obvious one, is you need to practice. If it's something that if you want to get good at something, you need to do it often. Now, it might only be little and often, but like not like painting for every day for a week, like 8 hours a day for a week, and then not painting again for 3 months will not improve your painting. You'll kind of go backwards a bit. But like half an hour, sort of 5 times a week, will serve you much better than just painting for like a long period, like sort of blasting out. I'm gonna paint for 8 hours and get this all done, and then I'll worry about it in a month's time when I need to do something else. Little and often is much better for that kind of stuff. Let's have a little look here. Just scroll up there. I just jumped off my screen a little bit there. Where was that one? RG saying the best advice I've had recently is use a wet palette. Excuse me, my throat's really dried out. Pull the paint out and then remove excess paint on a paper towel before taking it to the mini. It's made a huge improvement. Yeah, it definitely does, mate. Like I say, I've always kind of, like in the past, I used to kind of almost paint from the pot. I did thin the paint down, but I didn't like put it onto a wet palette or even a palette, to be fair. But I do generally kind of use a paper towel to like take the excess moisture out a little bit. Tony's saying he's watching this as an interested party since I'm scaling back to find enjoyment of the hobby, as I don't enjoy high-end or competitive painting. I do what I can to help out, but I don't have. I'm not suggesting that people need to push themselves to the point of competitive painting, or push themselves like to the point of, well, certainly don't push yourself to the point of not enjoying it. I think everybody has a level that they get to where they kind of like, you know, where they're really happy with the model's sort of end result versus the time it took them to do it. I think like everybody finds their happy medium. And for me, finishing a model is I get much more enjoyment from finishing a model than I do from kind of sort of trying to paint to the best of my ability. For me, it's just about maybe pushing it to the next level. I'm never going to enter competitions. I'm never going to be winning any best painted. I would say I'm an adequate painter. I can paint quite neat, and I kind of know what I'm doing, or it feels like I know what I'm doing. But I just wouldn't mind kind of just taking it up a notch, learning. Like, I don't think my basing's very good. I would love to learn to sort of get some better basing methods. I do a lot of my minis just with plumbing, PVA and sand kind of thing, and then add some bits of rocks and stuff onto it. I'd like to learn some more basing methods. Like I said before, I'm not very good at like sort of thin glazes to highlight something. I tend to kind of go almost quite cartoony with extremes, and I like the way it looks, so don't get me wrong, I'm not necessarily thinking about completely changing the way I paint things, but I'd like to learn some of the kind of the basics, or learn some of the methods behind it, if you like. Let's have a little look here. Waffles Enjoyer says, tip 6, ask Andy. I'm not necessarily the right person to be telling you how to like up your game, really, because I'm learning how to up mine a little bit. All I'm suggesting is there are things that I'm going to try and do next year that might help you, kind of thing. I'm not a great painter. I think I'm good at explaining what I do, and that's not blowing my own trumpet. I just think that's one of my strengths, is I can explain what I do. And I would say I'm all right at getting beginners to finish something, in terms of it doesn't always have to be high end. Here's some shortcuts to get an effective looking model and get your models painted and get them finished. And then if you want to learn and take it to the next level, maybe there's other people that you should go and kind of and pick up from. But I think there's a wide range of hobbyists. There's a lot of people that are a bit like me, maybe a little bit time poor. Maybe just want to get things finished. Don't always need to be kind of not every model needs to be a 10 out of 10. Sometimes a 5 or a 6 out of 10 is more than enough. And I think I can do all right with that kind of stuff. Tony says, I agree with Andy. Let your hair down, have fun, don't put yourself under so much pressure. What's the worst that can happen? Experiment, and if it needs stripping, fine. Absolutely, mate. Yeah, absolutely. Christian, that second link, mate, for the merch, I think it's dead now. That shop doesn't exist, I don't think, mate. So if that's the one I think it is, which I'm just looking at, unless it might still be, it might be still up on their store, but they're not paying me any commission anymore. Put it that way, mate. So I think the guy who used to work for that store that was sorting it all out has since left. So now I don't think they send me any commission anymore, so I don't want to advertise it. Spiderlord says, that upside down paint thing just blew my mind. Shame Citadel have got round tops. Yeah, I used to just store mine in like a in a tub kind of thing, you know, like just like a plastic tub. So I would just have them all just upside down inside there. Ed says, metal as in minis made of metal. Oh, right, sorry, mate. I see what you mean now. Do I find it any more difficult to paint metal minis? I find them heavy when you're holding them, and to paint it, getting the extra weight of them always kind of catches me out. I'm so used to like having plastic minis these days that the extra weight always catches me out. I just don't like assembling them. I'm not a big fan of metal minis, I'll be perfectly honest. I'd take resin over metal any day of the week. Tony says, I use green to shade red. Yeah. Win says, analysis paralysis was my problem, but realised if I get colours wrong, thin coats can easily be painted over. Exactly, mate. Absolutely. Prawn Toucher says, I'm also a fan of army painting. Seeing it all painted up is incredibly satisfying. I think I'm pretty settled with my standard. Now it works for me. But I completely agree with your tips. Great advice. Thank you, mate. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like the standard that I paint my armies at, I'm not going to try and improve on that. Like, if I need to paint an army, if I need to paint a lot of miniatures, I'll be getting them done, like, in the methods that I've always used. But what I want to try and do, like, over the next 12 months is maybe, like, paint a bust. Or maybe, like, sort of try and up the game on, like, on vehicles. I want to learn weathering tips, like how to do kind of... I've never used weathering powders before, for example. I don't really, like I said before, on basing and stuff, I want to learn how to do different basing techniques. I want to try, like I bought some chip and medium ages ago and I've never ever used it. I want to try and paint like a tank or a big vehicle where I can really kind of go to town and try and like weather it down and stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of like some of my little projects I want to try and do over the year. It might not be for a game. It might be just purely for the love of just trying some new techniques out or something like that. And it might actually make some quite interesting videos over that time as well. Super Punky Man says, I still have half a pot of 15-year-old Citadel Mithril silver that's still usable. I've still got some of those, the old GW... what they call it, the bullet pots, which are like the hex pots. I've still got some of those kicking about. Ed saying, classic orcs have charcoal skin anyway. Green is TSR trying to not to get sued by Tolkien Enterprises. There you go, mate. Luke Pryor, hello, mate. How you doing, fella? RG says, that's why I'm doing skirmish stuff now. Yeah. And Ed says, online didn't exist when I started. I've said this many times. I'm not... Like, just because I'm in my late 40s doesn't mean I've been painting for like 30 years or 40 years kind of thing. I didn't really get into painting until my 30s. So I've still been painting quite some time. But, like, the internet was a thing. But I'm not sure, like, broadband was, like... I'm trying to think. Around the time when I was painting, did I have broadband? I don't think broadband was really a thing. It might have still been dial-up at that point. Because I remember sitting watching like DVDs while I sat and painted. It wasn't like I was like streaming like Netflix or anything like that. Like, if I remember right, I was probably still doing things like sort of like Love Film, where you used to basically like rent a DVD and you could watch it and then pop it in the post and then they would send you another one. I was probably still doing stuff like that back then. So yeah, so the internet was a thing, and things like message boards and stuff, like forums, were probably a thing. But I think like digital cameras probably were like too much of a fanny on for people to be uploading photographs and stuff like that. So there was a lot of text chat, but I don't really think it was at the stage. Like, I'm trying to think now, I could be completely wrong, but I don't think it was at the stage where like we are now with like people sharing videos and being able to just take a picture on their phone and just kind of, just share it and stuff. I think it was probably right on the cusp of that starting to become a thing. Let's have a little look here. Paul saying, that's the end of the evening for me. Have a great rest of the stream and we'll catch you tomorrow. Good night, mate. Thanks for popping in. Steve says, don't forget the 4 steps from Games Workshop for painting. Base, blocking colours, shade, golden demon. Works perfectly every time, mate. Where are we up to here? Bases and faces. Yeah, banners, bases and faces was one I was always heard. Faces I've never been very good at. I'm not great at skin tones. It's something I need to get better at. I've basically shortcutted my way through it with kind of using like Gulliman Flesh contrast paints, which always works out looking good enough for me, kind of thing. So yeah, there's loads of bits that I kind of want to do. Tony says, I do wish I could do people or travel. I'd be happy to go through painting with thinning, how to thin metallics and how to dilute, etc. I wish I could do this stuff in person. You never know, mate. One day. Never say never. Who knows what's round the corner. But it's nice that you want to do it, mate. Regardless of whether you feel up to it or not is a different matter, but it's nice that you want to do it. Calvinoni, hello Cal, says crack that whip, Slayer the Grey. I'm not that bothered really whether people have painted miniatures or not. For me, painting has always been the big part of the hobby for me, and I do it purely for the enjoyment and not necessarily like I like to play with painted miniatures. And I prefer to play with painted miniatures, my own. I mean, I don't really mind what anybody else does, but that's more just like playing with painted miniatures is almost a celebration of like, oh well, I put all that work in. Now let's get them out and kind of do something with them. But I'm not somebody that would kind of like sort of pressure somebody else into doing it. Tony says, I want to paint in a timely fashion and make my minis look okay. I hope I've hit a happy medium. I was never great and definitely not now, as my age has become limiting. I'm okay with that. I definitely find that my age and like what comes with getting older, like my eyesight, like I can't like I've got to have really good light now. Like that's definitely something I've noticed. Even just sitting in a comfortable chair so I don't get as stiff, like sort of stiff back and stiff neck and stuff. All the things that come with old age that you don't expect. Waffles and Joy say, I can't let my hair down as I have none. That makes two of us, mate. Super Punkin Man says, Simple Green is great since it'll not damage plastic, so you can leave it soaking for as long as you want, but Simple Green is in an ultrasonic cleaner that also warms the liquid. It does the best job. You've got to be very careful, mate, when you put liquids that are flammable into an ultrasonic cleaner. The best way to do it is to put the liquid that you want to use into like a little plastic tub and put the plastic tub into the ultrasonic cleaner and then put water into the actual ultrasonic cleaner bath and do it that way. Because what you don't want is you don't want the ultrasonic cleaner, if it leaks, you don't want flammable stuff getting inside it, so you just got to be careful with that kind of thing. Christian sharing the link from our Amazon affiliate link. Thank you very much, mate. Bobby Clark says, realising what motivates you to paint and improve is vital for me. I often see people follow what works for others rather than themselves. It's a great point, mate, and it's one of the things that comes with watching other people on YouTube. Like, by all means, learn, like, take people's advice and learn new tips and try different things. But you're right. Everybody will find what's comfortable for them. Everybody will find the method that works. Just because it's not what everybody else does, but it works for you, doesn't make it wrong. Like this is how people create different things, because they do things in a different manner. So never be frightened to kind of like push your own bits, like push your own way of doing stuff if it feels comfortable to you. Ed said, I'm no fan of metal either, but my mum found a box of my old minis in her loft. Some are classics that I want to redo to do them justice. That's fair enough, mate. I think I'd suffer the pain for that one. Prawn Toucher says, painting a bust is something I've never done. It's a good shout. Would be a great project, or something in a bigger scale, like a handful of 54mm models. Yeah, I mean, I've got my resin 3D printer. I figure at some point I should try kind of like sort of pushing my skill a little bit in a different direction. Do something just for the love of painting. And if it's a bust, it's not a gaming piece. I'm not worried about it kind of getting sort of knocked about and damaged. The bigger surface areas to be able to try things like blending and shading and stuff, and maybe like I say things like the tanks and that to be able to try the weathering and stuff. All these little things that I want to try next year. Speed Demon saying, if you really want to try something different, oils and enamels are easy to work with and really do behave nothing like water-based stuff. I've seen a lot of stuff like that, mate, and people keep recommending to me about oil washes and stuff like that. It's something, again, I want to try at some point. Where are we up to here? Waffles and Joyce says, back when forums were called BBS. Is that the bulletin boards, was it? I think they were more like message boards or like forums, I suppose. I guess it was back then. Christian says, broadband hit the UK around 2000, I believe. Yeah, I'm trying to kind of think. So like the boys were born. Let me think. They were. What year is it now? They were 8 in this year. They were born 2004. Is that right? 2004? Oh, that can't be right. They were born 2002. They were 20 this year. That's right. They're 20. They were born in 2002, which is roughly when I started painting. So I might have had broadband, but it might have like it'll have been like sort of 1 meg broadband or something like that. It won't have been particularly fast. Like I can't imagine it. Like we didn't have like, obviously Netflix wasn't a thing. I don't even know if I had a PC. I mean, I'll have had a work laptop, but I wouldn't have used that for doing that kind of stuff. I don't even think I had my own PC back then. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I probably didn't, because I was probably using a work laptop to kind of... Oh, actually, I did have a PC because I was... Let me think. It did have broadband because I was probably downloading films off the internet at that point. That would take days and days to download. So I did have a PC, but I don't think it wasn't fast internet. Yeah, different times. Ed says, I'm 50 next year and started painting with Airfix models while I was at primary school, graduating to minis about 9 or 10. Yeah, like I say, when the kids were born, 2002, November 2002, it was probably 2003 was probably when I started painting. So yeah, it's been like nearly 20 years kind of thing, but it's I had a gap as well where I didn't really do much for a while. But yeah, but I like, so like I started around the time of like 5th edition 40k. I think the Assault on Black Reach box set was the one that was out at the time when I bought my first miniatures, with the Orcs and the Space Marines in it. I mean, when did Malifaux come out as well? Because that was let me just double check that. I'm sure Malifaux is about 14 years, is quite an old game now. Let's have a look, because I just painted for a while before I when I first started sort of hobby. I'm just trying to think. Oh, Malifaux in Wikipedia. Let's have a look. 2009. So that'll kind of tell you really roughly. 2009 was when it came out. So 2009 is really when I started playing miniature games. Up until that point, I was just collecting bits and pieces and painting the odd model here and there, really. So yeah, maybe it was a bit later. Maybe the kids were a little bit older when I started getting into it. But yeah, so I've not really been into gaming and stuff for very long in the grand scheme of things. Tony's saying we had the Clangers in 1973 when I started. Does that count as social media? To be honest, mate, the Clangers made a lot more sense than some things I read on social media. Tizzy Brain Drain, good evening, mate. RG says he started with Humbrol enamels in the 70s. Absolutely shocking results. I blame the paint, not the painter. Yeah, that's the one thing I would say these days. We can't necessarily blame the tools anymore. WM says, what was one single thing that boosted your painting skills? One thing that boosted my painting skills, I would suggest, was probably looking after my brushes. Now that seems like a kind of like an obvious thing, but I bought a new set of brushes after I'd been painting for a while, and I bought some Rosemary and Co ones. Up until that point, I used Games Workshop brushes, and just because they were accessible, they were easy to pick up from a local GW store. And I probably didn't really look after them very well. I certainly didn't have like brush soap or anything like that. I would probably wash them out and dry them on a paper towel, and that was as probably good as it got. And when I bought some better quality brushes, they weren't a fortune to be fair, but they were a little bit more money I think than the GW ones. I started to look after them, and I think the biggest boost in my painting was looking after brushes and realizing how bad my old ones had got. When I got some new ones, and I think that was my painting took a big step on it, just at the point of like having a brush with a point on it when I was new. So I would say that was like the big step in the early days. After that, what was it? What would I say? I would say after that, it's probably just something like just practice, and it sounds a bit of a weak answer really, but it was painting regularly, and it was maybe giving myself like deadlines, like painting for events and stuff, just gave me the focus to get stuff done. Where I think when I was just painting for painting's sake, I was a bit aimless and I drifted around and I didn't necessarily get things finished. So let's have a little look. Steve says, good tip. As I've gotten older, I've found having your desk elevated so you're not hunched over helps more than you could realise. I quite often paint here, mate, like intentionally. Like my chair drops down quite low. I can sit with my elbows like this on the table. So if I'm painting, like my elbows means that the miniature's kind of at eye level. I'm not hunched over. So sometimes like the light's not bad in here. Sometimes I'll sit and paint here. But I do have a hobby desk inside as well, like up in the bedroom upstairs. Super Pumpkin Man says, I've only painted a bust once, and it was hard since the girl kept moving. A friend was cosplaying Nebula from Guardians of the Galaxy. Spidlord says the line wire years. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what it was called now. I don't think it was line wire I would use, but yeah, those were the days. Wasn't CB radio years, mate. That was way before my time. Waffles and Joyce, I found a copy of Battle for Macragge, 4th edition. It was 4th edition, mate, in the closet, but I've no recollection of buying it. Pesky said, I've got some models about 2 months ago. I'm nearly finished one I'm happy with. Awesome, mate. I'm glad to hear that you're happy with it. That's the most important bit. Grumpy Gaming says, biggest improvements with my painting skills have been trying other types of paints, using the palette and learning how to thin and use colour theory. Yeah, colour theory is a big one. I think it's some people it comes quite natural to. Some people, even with when it's explained to them, it still doesn't sort of come natural. What I would say is if you're struggling with colour choices, if you're struggling with kind of colour theory, a great starting point is always sports teams. Look at the uniforms that like sort of NFL teams wear. Look at the uniforms that basketball teams wear. Look at the uniforms that like football or soccer teams wear. Like those strips are kind of color matched, if you like they're intentionally designed with colors in mind that complement each other or contrast each other intentionally. And so yeah, if you're just getting started and you're trying to think of, yeah, I don't want to paint it the same color as the box art, I want to try something different, look at things like superheroes costumes, sports teams, that kind of thing. It's always a good shout. Yeah, Christian says, hunching over a desk is the one habit I can't break. I had a motorbike accident years ago, and I've got a weak spot at the bottom of my back, just off centre of my spine. And every now and again, once like every 5 or 6 years, I'll tweak it doing something stupid. And it absolutely kills me for a couple of weeks. So I've kind of learned to try and like look after my back a little bit. Like I tend to like sit with my back straight rather than hunched. I always think like, so even though I'm sitting here, my back's pretty straight and stuff like that. So I tend to try and paint like much more upright like that as well, and have the light kind of over here and try and paint rather than hunching over. Waffles is saying wet blending is a good thing to practice, and it's not particularly complicated. It just needs experience. It does just need experience, but I sometimes struggle to know when to use it as well. What am I painting that needs wet blending kind of thing. That's I think that's knowing when's the right time to use that technique, I guess. Anyway, let's go back and let's have a look at the last few entries. We've got Mr. Marcus Schneider. Let me we go back here. I'm going to open up this picture, and we're going to, if I find his email, let me go back to my emails here. Marcus, there he is. Marcus is saying, here's my gift of autumn. It's Sylvaneth from the Warhammer Underworlds. Is it Yathari's Guardians Warband? Lovely, mate. I've always quite fancied painting some Sylvaneth models. I quite like the idea of doing like sort of like autumnal colours and stuff. Really nice, mate. Lovely models, really nicely painted, good colour choice. Love the almost like ethereal skin tones. Love these autumn colours. I love the little bits of scatter leaves around the bottom as well. It really sets the pictures off. But they look great, mate. Really nice. The purples really pop with it as well. Nice bit of blending from the oranges, the browny reds through the oranges and the yellows as well. They look great. Nice bit of edge highlighting around the sides as well. Lovely, lovely work. Let me get another drink as well. My throat is really dry tonight. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, beautiful work, mate. You should rightly be proud of these ones. Really, really nice. Do you play Underworlds, mate, or do you just paint these for the sake of painting them? But I do like what you've done. I must admit, man, I'm a big fan of GW's Underworld minis with these sculpted bases. I know people like to do their own basing and stuff, but like as a board game piece type thing, which is essentially what it is, I do like these sculpted bases. Beautiful work, mate, and they look fantastic together. Really, really nice, and I like that little way of setting them off as well. Nice, man. Well done. Thank you for entering as well. Newbie Dice, we've got Paige here as well. And here's Paige Neil. So, he hasn't actually said anything. He's just showed me some pictures. So these are super cool. He did send it as a video as well, but the video wasn't loading for some reason. But I'll go back and check that one. And this looks suitably gory and full of blood. Let's have a little look in this one as well. And I think this one tells it a little bit more. It says, the gift of a Harlequin's kiss is swift and deadly. The Harlequin's kiss contains a tightly coiled, retractable monofilament wire. Activated with a punch, the wire instantly uncoils and lashes around, violently liquefying bones and internal organs and causing immediate death. So that's why it looks like that. That is nicely done, mate. I love it as like a bit of a diorama as well. It looks fantastic. Really nice. And I do love your Harlequin stuff as well, with the little bits of playing card stuff on. Always impressive, buddy. Thank you very much. Robert Green. And Robert, if I can find his email. Here we go. He's saying, sorry for the quality. You couldn't get the good photos off the camera. Don't worry about it, mate. Honestly, like, I just want to see them. Don't worry. He says, use what you want. Was going to send some Vikings to a present to me at the start of lockdown, but these are the Rashar from Carnivale. An early Christmas present. No bases. Haven't got those sorted yet. Not sure whether to go land or canal. So these are the Rashar from Carnival. Very nice, mate. That's an ugly looking thing. There's some shots where you can see from the front, which I'll show you in a bit anyway. But the Rashar are kind of like fish people from Carnival. Very much in the vein of sort of Lovecraftian kind of what's it called again? Like Inns. Is it Innsmouth? I wanted to say Innsbruck, but that's a real place. Innsmouth, isn't it, I think? Nice, mate. Lovely use of colours there. Loving these as well. Nice little gem on the headpiece there. Looks very suitably, almost tentacly on the weapon. And the blues and the golds go really nice together. There's the evil looking little fella there. These are all resin models from TT Combat. They make some really nice resin models. It's a little bit brittle, but they do have some very nice sculpts. They do make some nice sculpts. Yeah, look, nice bit of shading, mate. The purple, kind of purpley blue with the green works really well as well. Very nice. There's that weird looking like fish blob thing with spikes. It looks like he's got is that a skull he's got in his hands? You wouldn't want to cross him on a dark night, would you? That's for sure. Let's see him there as well. You can see the skull a bit better. But very nice work, mate. A nice model as well. Nice to see some Carnival miniatures in there. Thank you very much for entering them, mate. Nothing wrong with those photographs, by the way. Stephen Krebs. And Stephen has been painting this. Let's find out what Stephen says about it, because it's not a model I'm familiar with. There we go. He said, happy birthday. Thank you very much, Stephen. He says, hope toys are still part of the gift. They kind of were, mate. I didn't get any hobby stuff for my birthday, as it happens. He says, here's my entry. He's a Reaper Bones frogman, hurling a fiery gift to his enemies. He's a big boy, so also placed a Frostgrave wizard next to him for scale. Interesting, so we'll get to see his size, the size of the mod as well. Nice on the bridge, man. I like the bridge work as well. But lovely colour choices, mate. Good work on the fire as well. That kind of getting the flame. Everybody, well, not everybody. Some people often get the flames the wrong way around. It's always like brighter in the middle and sort of darker on the edges where it gets cooler. But yeah, you've done it the right way, mate. It looks awesome. And that gives you an idea of the size of them compared to a Frostgrave wizard as well, which is also painted very nicely, mate. But lovely colour choices. Love the basin. Looks very kind of like slimy and almost like kind of a little bit like a bog or riverbank type thing. Really nice work, buddy. Thank you very much. And again, congrats on completing this month's challenge. Tony Howell. Oh, I do love to see Tony's stuff. Here we go. He says, can't take credit for the link for this one. I think Colin came up with it, but I liked it and decided to roll with it. This chap has the gift of eternal life. I like it, mate. It works well. Really nice model, mate, and really nicely painted as well. This is not the one, I don't think, from... This is not the one from Cursed City, is it? This is one of the other vampires, isn't it? But with the rats across the shoulders and stuff, and the kind of tails hanging at the back. It's a fantastic model. Love the base as well, mate. Nice base that you got it sat on. Love this kind of purpley blue as well. Looks really kind of rich and quite... What's the word I'm looking for? Like luscious, I should say. But yeah, beautiful skin tones, mate. It works really well. The sword over the shoulder and the balance with the cane as well. It is a nice sculpt. And I love those little bits of tufts between the cobbles. It really does set it off, mate. Awesome work as ever, Mr. Howell. Thank you very much for entering. And last but not least, we have Mr. Wayne Haywood, which I think brings us into a very Christmassy mood as well as a gift. And Wayne says, I'm hoping in time for this month's challenge. You are, my friend. And he says, thanks for the motivation to get my Christmas project done. Attached is a photo of my Christmas gobbo from Dead Earth Games. It was part of their Pirates of the Dread Sea Kickstarter. Still a bit shiny as it's not varnished yet. That's okay, mate. Love it, mate. Nice bit of snow on the base. Nice kind of crisp reds on there as well. Yeah, bit of shading and stuff on the sack. Looks just the job, mate. And good work on the eyes and teeth as well. Something I always end up bulging up. But you've nailed it, mate. It looks awesome. And with that, that is the last of the entries for November's painting challenge. So I guess that just means that we have to set something for December, doesn't it? So December's painting challenge, let's have a look at the dates. Because I'm assuming people have got kind of busy things to do in December, haven't they? So I think what we'll do is we'll have a live stream on the 2nd of January. So you're going to have from now until the 2nd of January, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. So let's not set anything too too difficult, I think. What I think we'll have for this one is we will have... Oh, I was torn between two there. I'll give you the option of two, okay? So you can either have, if you want something a little bit quirky and a bit different, Christmas wish. Now this can be your wish, like so you can be painting something that you wish you'd painted years ago, or you wish you'd painted when you were younger, or it might be the model that you wish you had when you were a kid but you can never afford it. It might be a model that you wish you'd finished earlier in the year. Something like that. We're going to have some tenuous link. So Christmas wish is the main one. Or for those of you that can't find a link for it, you can literally paint whatever you want. It's December. That is my Christmas gift to you. The gift of choice. You can paint whatever you want. I know time's going to be a bit tighter this month. Folks are going to be maybe struggling to get some hobby time in with trying to do stuff around family and things like that. So as a bit of a low ball for the end of the year, if you can't think of something that comes up that fits in with the Christmas wish, by all means, just paint what you like. I just want to see people motivated to paint. So let me write that down. There you go. Christmas wish, and you have until the 2nd of January. We'll be doing a live stream on January the 2nd. Boxing Day is also, so I noticed today, Boxing Day is a Monday. And I kind of think we should just carry on and still do the live stream. What do you think, folks? Why would you rather not have a live stream on Boxing Day, or by Boxing Day are you sick of the family and you're ready for something to kind of get you out of the room and go, I'm going to watch the stream on? It's a Monday. I always watch my stuff. So there you go. Ed says, did you not get my entry? I don't think I did, mate. I went through all of the entries. I put them all into like a folder, and I definitely didn't see it, mate. So I apologise if I've not done it. I'll go back through and double check it. Looks like it didn't send. There you go. That's why I didn't get it, mate. So there you go. Let's have a little look up here. Yeah, Super Punker Man saying painting the silver net's been really fun. Nice one, mate. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Classic 3-colour paint scheme. That's the way. Super Punker Man saying he's never played. Oh, he's played Underworld, but he used them for Warcry. Good choice as well, mate. VG says, back, what did I miss? I think you might have missed the main topic, and I guess you might have caught the last lot of those, the other stuff. Invisible says, hey everyone, hope your evening's all going well. Nice to catch the tail end of the vids when I get home from work on a Monday. Welcome home, Invisible, and welcome to the stream. Prawn Touch is saying, love those Carnival sculpts. Brilliant work, everyone, yeah. And Spider Lord saying, looking forward to getting stuck into his Rashar as well. Yeah, nice one. James Collin, hello mate. He said, watching on delay, so just got to the painting showcase. My models were is it Aotl unit by Lost Kingdom. They'll be used as Croxigers for my Seraphon army. There you go, mate. Thank you very much. They look awesome, mate. Thank you for that. Clyde saying lots of great submissions this last challenge. Yeah, there were some really nice ones, mate. Spylot says no excuse for not getting an entry in now, I guess. None at all, mate. And Clyde saying Boxing Day is hobby day. Well, there you go, mate. We'll definitely still do it then. Tony says Boxing Day Fighting Fantasy book. Oh, we might do it, mate. If it's going to be a quieter one, it's a good excuse to do it, isn't it? 'Twas the night after Christmas. Tizzy Brindrin says, well, we don't celebrate Boxing Day here in the States, so a stream on that day would be just fine. And Super Punky Man saying, yeah, Boxing Day doesn't affect us in Texans. It's kind of, Boxing Day is not really a thing in the UK either. Like, it's kind of, it tends to just be the day where everybody just kind of veggies out. It's like, maybe go for a beer or something like that, but not in the night time really. It's normally a bit of a lazy night. VGC's got a gig on Boxing Day. We'll probably be enjoying a sleep in the next day. Clavax saying, first I heard of Boxing Day, I thought it was the punching kind. I don't even know where it comes from, mate. Ed saying he's going to send it over. Nice one, mate. Actually, if you send that over, mate, I will have a look in my emails, see if we can quickly get it up on the screen. Let me just go back a second, because it was only fair, mate. You've got the trouble of painting it. It would be nice to get it up. There we go. It's just come in. Let's get it up on the screen. So, this one here. There we go. There's Ed's. I haven't read what the email says actually. Let me. I'll read it on my phone. I won't bring it up on the screen in case it says anything that you don't want me to share, mate. Ed's email says... Well, it will do when it comes up. There it is. Assault Intercessor Grenadier, painted as a gift for a friend. It was to add to the 5 base intercessors I did for his kill team before GW increased the limit to 6. Is that what they did? They increased it to 6. I hadn't realised that. I love the paint job on that, mate. Beautiful basing work. Really contrasts nicely with the armour. And the armour with the colour of it really, really is nice and clean and neat, mate. Love the little highlights of silver on the crest there as well. Love the edge highlighting around the bits of like pouches and stuff. Really nice work. Lenses on the eyes. Awesome, mate. I must admit, I know Space Marines, everyone like says they're a bit boring and stuff like that, but they're kind of the poster boys for a reason. I must admit, I think at some point in the future, I'd quite like a Space Marine army as a bit of a painting project, not to play necessarily, but just to have on display. They're quite iconic, and I think the Marines do look good. So yeah, who knows in the future? That might be a one for my future me has a look at. So thank you very much, Ed. Awesome work, buddy, and thanks for entering. Let's have a little look here. Christian says it dates back to the Victorian era when the rich would package up leftovers and other gifts for the poor. There you go, mate. I knew we'd learn something new every day. To be honest, I think in Germany, do they give Christmas gifts on Christmas Eve? There's somewhere else I think gives their gifts on Boxing Day as well. And I forget where that is. Anyway, just traditions. Yeah, Spylord saying, yeah, lovely clean marine. It is, mate. It looks awesome, doesn't it? Clavax says, plenty of British stuff is kind of messed up. There's plenty of stuff all over the world that's kind of messed up, mate. And Ed saying, yeah, Space Marine, done well, look fantastic. Yeah, that's kind of what I think, mate. Like, I feel like if it's something that I'm just going to take my time with rather than trying to, like, knock it out fast. If I just, like, do them a unit at a time, and I like the Invictus warsuit type thing. I love some of the tanks. Like, it would be nice just to paint them and maybe, like, sort of just, you know, have it as a display army type thing. Yeah, Ed saying, yeah, Poland does Christmas Eve as well. Yeah, that's right. And Super Punky Man says Germans do Christmas Eve. Yeah, I knew I'd heard something like that. But I'm sure somebody does it on Boxing Day as well, and I forget who it is. Or is it called St. Stephen's Day? I think it's also called. There you go. Waffle says, I'm disappointed Boxing Day isn't about punching your neighbours. My neighbours are quite nice, to be fair, so that's alright. Yeah. And Super Pokemon says, yeah, at least my family does. Yeah, I've kind of heard that before, actually. To be honest, I kind of wish we did as well, really, a little bit, because Christmas Day ends up being a bit of a hectic thing, because it ends up being, I mean, it's a day to see family and stuff, which is fantastic, and it's nice to see family, but then, when you're a kid, and you've just gotten all your kind of, Santa's delivered all your presents, you've just got up, you've opened your presents, and then it's, right, come on, showered, changed, we're going out to see Granny and Grandad, and we're going to Uncle's for lunch and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, but I've just got all these lovely toys. I want to stop in the house and play with them. There's a bit of that, isn't there? So, yeah, I kind of wish Wimbees did it on Christmas Eve as well. Clark says, in Spain, traditionally, it's the three wise men that bring the gifts on January the 6th. You have to leave water outside for the camels and snacks for them. I love all the different traditions around the world, like how all these things are like sort of massively different. Like we do a thing in the UK as well, or we used to do it. There's something like being called like a first foot on New Year. So on New Year's Eve, just before midnight, somebody has to go and kind of stand outside of the front door and wait outside. And then once midnight strikes, you kind of knock on the door and you let them in. And it's called being the first foot, like the first foot through the door of the new year. And they're supposed to bring a piece of coal with them because it brings good luck. I've got no idea where that kind of comes from as a kind of tradition as well. But yeah, that's a funny thing to do. Super Pokemon says the German families are crazy about Christmas. I think people are crazy about Christmas here as well, but more from a commercialism point of view rather than like a religious thing, or rather than even like as a seasonal thing. I think it's just people get swept up in the consumerism and now with the commercialism and now. Edsy and his wife's family are Polish, so we have 2 days to do the Christmas thing. That's quite kind of cool. And Edsy, yeah, first foot comes from Scotland. I didn't realise it was a Scottish thing, mate, but I guess up here in the northeast, it's obviously very much we have some of the kind of the Scottish kind of traditions, I guess, that kind of drift over the border a little bit. And Super Pokemon says, yeah, same here. 24th to 26th is basically a 48-hour long party. That sounds like a good deal to me, mate. I do love a good party. But so as I say, your painting challenge for December is Christmas Wish. And if you really just want to paint something because you're thinking, I want to get something finished by the end of the year or whatever it is, you want to just get something done, by all means paint whatever the heck you want. I'm just having a look here at dates as well, how we're doing, because I think what we might do is, so we've got like the 12th, the 19th and the 26th, the next 3 weeks. 26th we might do a Fighting Fantasy one, Tony. Now you've planted the seed in my head, because I'm not sure whether it's going to be a busy one or not anyway, so we might do something like that. The 19th is the week before Christmas. On the 19th we might do kind of like a look back over the year or something like that, you know, like a sort of my favourite games or favourite minis of the year or something like that. We might do something like that on the 19th. And next week I'll have to give it some thought. But yeah, I think that should kind of wrap us up quite nicely, I think, for the end of the year. It's gone so fast this last year. I don't know if it's coming out at the back end of all the lockdowns and stuff last year or what, but it doesn't seem 2 minutes since like we were in the summer. Like it doesn't seem 2 minutes since. I mean, like Christian, when were you here, mate? I'm trying to think when you were here. When we were sitting outside eating, it was like a lovely hot summer's day. We were out sitting having a drink in the beer garden. I'm trying to think when that was. So I can't even, like, that was this year, wasn't it? I'm trying to think when it was, mate. But yeah, this year's just flown over. Like, obviously, VJ being up like in the back end of the summer when the weather was amazing. Like, honestly, it was last year, wasn't it, mate? Was it really that long? I thought it was this year. My God, that has gone fast. That just shows how quick this year's gone, mate. We need to recap them, mate. You need to get a train boot, mate. We need to get you back up again. It is. Mark Zielinski, hello, buddy. How you doing? He says, time is flying by. I think it's just me getting old, mate. That's what it is. Speaking of the Mark Zielinski, the man, the myth, the legend, I am trying my best to get over to Adepticon in March next year. Like I've kind of had the all clear from command at home. My wife said it's absolutely fine, not a problem at all. It's just more about trying to sort out hotels, where to stay, sort out flights, that kind of stuff. But like I was all planned to come in 2020 and that didn't happen. And then 2021 was cancelled. And then 2022, I think there was still quite a lot of restrictions and stuff in place back then. So I wanted to kind of give it an extra year to recover. But yeah, my plan is to get to Adepticon next year. I want to see it for myself. I want to come and hang out with all you guys that I never get a chance to meet. All of the kind of the Mantic folks who always attend Adepticon every year and come and take part in some of the events, the Kings of War events and things like that. I want to check out Star Wars Shatterpoint as well. They're doing the first demos over there then. So yeah, I'm trying my best, mate. I'm trying my best. Tony says, fighting fantasy at the right time. I like the idea of a roundup too. Yeah, I think that's kind of the best way to do it, mate, isn't it? Super Pokemon says, best of the painting challenge 1 entries from everyone's submission over this year. 1 per person. Well, we might do something like that in the new year, maybe as a bit of a wrap-up of the last 12 months and include December's in them as well. Christian says, absolutely, we can sort something out for the spring, early summer next year. I can't be dealing with the cold up your way. I won't make you sit outside, mate, when you come next time. It was only because we had nice weather. Maybe it wasn't nice for you, but it was warm for me. I think, to be fair, when VJ come, I think he brought the Australian sunshine with him. It was absolutely boiling when he came over. It was right in the middle of that heat wave that we had for a while. So yeah, so it's been one of them really busy years. If I look back over all the different things I've done this year, like we might kind of do that on one of the last streams. Is I just have a look back over like some of the videos that I've made, because that always gives me an idea of what kind of games I was playing at the time, what stuff I was painting, like different events I've been to. Obviously UK Games Expo back in the summer as well. Like there's been quite a bit of stuff this year. But this year is not over, that's for sure. We've still got a few weeks of it left to go. Loads of stuff I'm looking forward to talking about. I've got an army that is sitting there on that table that is waiting to be painted this week, which will be a video for this week. So Tuesday's video will be the clips from tonight, and then it's going to take me a few days to do this painting video and get it edited and everything. So hopefully Friday's video this week will be what I'm looking at now. And the whole point of it is like doing a bit of like a 24-hour challenge type thing about getting an army done in 24 hours. Obviously, I'm not like one of the young YouTube guys who can just sit there from 8 o'clock in the morning for 24 hours through to 8 o'clock the next morning. I'll have to kind of chop mine up into like maybe it's like 5 or 6 hours here, and then look after my son for a bit, and then maybe it's another 3 or 4 hours when he goes to bed. And then I have to go to bed because I have to get up to take him to school the next morning. So my 24 hours will be over a period of a few days, but it will be just like kind of done in 24 hours, just to show that you don't always have to kind of sort of commit 3 or 4 months to paint an army. So yes, that's what I'll be doing this week. Features saying, yeah, weather for his visit was a cracker. Hope to bring it back in 23. 100%, mate. Yeah. Tony saying he's got his mini choice for this month, be a fighting fantasy mini. Nice one, lad, I like it. Christian saying, yeah, I know what I'm going to get painted for this challenge as well. I'm going to paint something for this challenge as well. I've kind of got out of the routine of painting stuff for the challenges. I don't know how that happened. I think it was when I was going through a bit of a hobby slump, I just kind of stopped doing them myself. But yeah, I'll paint something for this challenge as well. And Mark saying, can't wait for an army in 24 hours. Yeah, I'll tell you, I did the test model today to get all my kind of colour scheme down. And I was super happy with how fast it was, and super happy with the finished look of it as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing it this week. So yeah, I'll have the timer on and stuff like that, and I'll kind of it's not like a how to paint type thing, although I will talk you through the different steps I did, but it'll be like a bit of a challenge video to show that, you know, like you don't always have to kind of like think, oh, it's going to take me months to do it. If I can do it in like a couple of days, painting like sort of chunks of time, anybody can do it in a couple of days. Mark says, I need those speed painting tips. Well, hopefully, mate, this one will help. Vijay is pretty confident I can pull off with Zenithal and Contrast. You'll be interested to know I am not using Zenithal and I'm not using Contrast. I think this is faster than painting Zenithal and Contrast. I think this is a faster paint job, mate. And Vijay says, want to race me to get yours done? We shall see, my friend. We shall see. But no, honestly, it's like I'm all for contrast paints and stuff like that. But I think painting with contrast paints, you've got to be pretty neat. You've got to kind of take your time, because you don't want it's hard to fix mistakes with contrast paints, where with normal paints you just kind of paint over the top of it. So I think what I've got for this army is faster than contrast paints. So yes, I'll be doing that. So on that note, we will end the stream tonight. Thank you every single one of you for coming in tonight. Thank you for supporting me as always. Absolutely. Oh, Mark's saying even better, I have my new Duncan Roads paints to break in. Yeah, I've just had a set of those sent as well to have a look at. I've not used them yet. So yes, thank you everybody for supporting me as always. Much appreciated. As I said, we'll have the clips video tomorrow. Probably Friday's video will be this one because it'll take me most of the week to film and paint and edit and stuff. So it'll be Friday's video, assuming all goes well, fingers crossed. And then I will see you all next Monday for another Monday night live stream. So take care, folks. Have a lovely week. And I'll speak to you in the Discord if you're around. Bye, folks.